everyone, and welcome to Reinvention Queen. Last time I spoke with Dr. Gillian Royce about her book, Third Act Dating, and one theme that stuck with me and resonated with me is just how tricky dating could be at this stage in life, in the third act of life. How do we find someone who will be compatible with us, especially when the dating pool seems so very small? That conversation made me think about a much bigger picture, How many of us are still chasing the high value man, the CEO, the boss man, the man who is at the top of his profession. And so, of course, those men are attractive. However, it makes the dating pool very small if those are the only men that most women are looking at. And the truth is, that focusing just on that sort of attraction will limit the pool, and there are lots of good men out there, just that they are just ordinary workers. So today we're going to challenge that mindset. We're going to look at why the man for you might not be in that group. It's just that we've never been open to it before. And as Jillian said, we have to drop a lot of, the lists that we make, age and this, and they have to be that, and I want them to be, we have usually some kind of long list. So we have to look and put the things that are really important, like how the person makes you feel. Are they nurturing? Are they kind? We're going to look at qualities and good attributes as opposed to, what the person has. And we're also going to get practical. Where are these overlooked men? They're there waiting for us. Where are they? So where do we look? How do we find them? And yes, is it okay for us to take the lead? We're going to look at all that and more. The bottom line is, in the third act of your life, it's not about competing with younger women. It is about finding your own, coming into your own, stepping into your own, being comfortable in your skin, to actually go out there and look and decide, what is it I want? What do I really want? What am I looking for in a partner? Not to feel scared because all my other relationships, I had to give up this and I didn't feel understood, and I had to be an extension of the other person. In this third act, we're not going to be considering those things. We're just going to be considering what we need for us to be happy. The term high value usually refers to somebody who is at the top of their field, and usually they look good on paper, and very often they also look good in person. And so, there's nothing wrong with that. They're attractive. Chasing only that version of a man will make the pool seem even smaller than it is, especially in small communities or small islands like Jamaica or other Caribbean islands. But even globally, you live in small communities. If you're only looking for that type of man, then the pool is going to seem exceptionally small. So here's the shift now. Instead of asking about it, is he high value, we're going to ask, is he a good man? I have to tell you this story. Shortly after I came back from living in Toronto, this woman said to me, she was a close acquaintance at the time, she said to me, so have you met anyone? And I said, actually, I've been dating someone. It's fairly new. And she asked me what was the person like. So I said, well, one thing's for sure, he's punctual, because if he says he's going to pick you up at 7, he is there at 7, and I really like that, because I'm a punctual person, and I hate when, you get dressed and you have to wait. And he's also, he's well-mannered, and I told her, some of the attributes, and I said, and one good thing, I love going for meals with him because we enjoy the same types of food and we enjoy the same wine. And when she looked at me kind of odd, and I said, what? Why are you looking at me like that? And she says, because, it's the first time that I've ever asked a woman what a man is like that she's interested in, and she has not told me first what he does for a living, what kind of car he drives, what his profession is, and his connection to the whole social status network. So, sometimes before we even start looking for a man, we have to start looking at ourselves. Are we, chasing status for our own validation? Do we feel that we're not enough? Is there something in our society, in our communities that make us feel that we're not sufficient and we have to just, in order to be valid, you have to have this high value person. So the relationship that you have with yourself is going to be the most important relationship that you're ever going to have. And I believe that once you truly love and like yourself, and you feel validated as you are, and you don't have to make excuses about who you are, and you don't have to small up yourself or shrink yourself, I think you're going to find that it's going to make a big impact on finding the right man for you. So who are these overlooked men? Well, they're just regular ordinary men. They're school teachers, they're taxi drivers, they're chefs, they are people who, electricians, they're people who just work regular ordinary jobs. They may be not at the top of their profession, but they're still professionals, and they're still men and good men, just that they tend to be overlooked. Do you know that studies have shown that 80% of men feel invisible in the dating world? They may not sit at the top of the social structure, but they certainly can bring attributes that are going to be of benefit to us and to enhance our lives. When we filter only by status, we're going to miss out on a lot. And so think about it. Have you bypassed someone just because of status? Drop it in the comments. Let's hear your stories. And your stories may just encourage other women. So where do we actually look if we want to find these good men that are out there? We have to move away from small elite circles and start looking in other spaces. So where do we actually find them? I have a list here. Volunteering events, clubs or hobby groups, faith-based communities, travel or cultural groups, everyday places like the grocery store, the park, bookstore, or even a parking lot. And I have got to tell you that story about the parking lot. I was walking one day and going to the supermarket. I was in the parking lot, and this man pulled up beside me, and it was clear that he was sort of, moving along with me. And so I stopped and I looked, and he said, "Hello," and I said, "Hello," and he said, "Would you please have lunch with me?" And I said, "What?" "Yes, would you please have lunch with me today?" And I was flabbergasted. First of all, I suppose I wasn't really interested. I wasn't looking for anybody. This man just took me by surprise. Now, having spoken to Jillian, and now that I've decided I'm going to see how this works out here, I probably would have had the lunch with the man, because now I know you can meet good men anywhere. And I just thought I had this programming that you had to be introduced by a mutual friend and all of that sort of stuff. And all of that really went out the window so long ago. And so anyway, I turned down the man's offer, and I said to him, "I'm probably too old for you anyway, but thank you, I'm very flattered." And he says, "No, I'm 65, I can show you my driver's license." Well, of course, I was flattered that he thought I was, close to his age or younger than he was at the time. But the thing is, that could have been a great opportunity to meet someone, but I wasn't open or receptive to it. So that's just, my funny story about passing up perhaps a good man because of, programming. When you shift your mindset and expand your vision, you're going to start seeing opportunities everywhere, even in a parking lot. Now let's talk about the ladies who have a strong presence. I've been told that I have a strong presence. And there's some men, when I've gotten to know them, they've said that, when I first met you, I wanted to ask you out, but I felt a little intimidated by your presence. And, it's something that perhaps the right person won't be intimidated by your presence. They will probably appreciate it and think it's a part of your charm, your beauty, and overall, just you. And so, yes, you can intimidate people by your presence online as well, because, but how do we soften the entry points to avoid that? Well, I would say, don't list too many accomplishments in your profile. You're going to put some if you wish, but put more of your character traits. And then once somebody is interested and you start talking, then of course go ahead and tell them, all of your achievements and accomplishments if you so desire. Because, in the long run, you have to have somebody who is willing to accept all of you. And so it's not that you're going to keep anything from anybody, it's just you're going to enter gently. Also something that I'd like to clear up regarding confidence. I've been seeing online, a lot of younger women saying that, I am confident and I am not having any man this and I'm not doing that and don't speak to me about that. I can say anything I wish and I need to speak my mind and that sort of thing. When they behave crass and loud and argumentative, and that's not confidence, that's defensiveness. And our defense mechanism is usually only triggered when we feel under attack or when we're not feeling confident in who we are. And so it is not confidence, it's usually the opposite of confidence. Truly confident people tend to be more humble, gracious, civil, kind, because they know who they are, so they don't have to go out there fighting. They have nothing to prove. They already know that they are enough. And so if you're looking for a man, maybe, that good man is not going to be attracted to this combative person. Who wants to do combat at home? And who wants to live in a combat zone? Just like you, where everybody's just looking for some companionship and some peace. They're not looking for drama and everyday combat. And so yes, it's okay for us to take the lead. We're not in our 20s anymore, sitting by the phone, waiting for that phone call. No, those days are gone. We can take the lead. We can, ask friends, tell friends we're now interested in dating again, and ask friends to introduce you to anybody that they may know. But as Gillian said in our last episode, she says if that hasn't worked for you yet, it probably isn't going to. And so, go ahead with that. Keep your eyes open, if you're in the supermarket or if you go to the cafe and you see somebody there and, well, there's no wedding ring, they're buying a coffee cake or something. And you could say, this place sells the best coffee cake. I come here at least once a week to indulge. And that's an opening and you see where it goes. Don't be afraid. Men have been making that first step for years, as I said. And I tell you, I really do empathize with them because it takes a lot to do it. And online, you can, you see a profile that you like and you read about the person and you think that might be a good fit. Smile. if the person smiles back, you could send a message just saying, your smile seems so warm and genuine that I stopped scrolling and read your profile. And you could, end with an open question so that the person, so that the person can has something to respond to keep the conversation going. Taking the lead is not desperate, it's proactive, and that is how opportunities are created. So then we're going to make the shift away from titles and status, and we're going to look for qualities, and you know the qualities that you're looking for, and the qualities that are most important: kindness, thoughtfulness, somebody who is going to have your back, who is going to validate you and not try to demean or demote you or start to tell you you're a little too this and you're a little too that and that sort of thing. People who are going to spend time making you feel like the queen that you are. I would like to share a poem written by my dear friend, Jamaican poet Jean Wilson, and it's called No More Smalling Up of Me. I used to buy a print from her when I did my personal development courses, and along with the certificate of participation, the participants would receive a poster of that poem, because I think it is something that is so inspiring, and you could buy one of those posters if they're still available for any young woman or any young person in your life. I think it will benefit everybody, and I'm going to share that with you now. No more smalling up of me by Jean Wilson. No more meekly saying yes when my heart is screaming no. No more taming of my feelings so my power won't show. No more hiding my exuberance from disapproving eyes. No more watering down myself so my spirit won't rise. No more smalling up of me, pretending I'm not here. No more running from the music and the spotlight's glare. No more living in this prison barricaded by my fears. No more turning and retreating in the face of new frontiers. Even as I'm speaking, I am taking shape and form, harnessing my powers like a gathering storm. There's no obstacle so bold as to dare stand in my way. I am taking back my life, and I am doing it today. I would love to hear your stories in the comments. Have you ever overlooked a good man? Now that you think about it, drop it in the comments. Let me know. Remember, people, I believe in synchronicities, so look for synchronicities. Join the dots. Because once you make a decision that you're going to do something and you start to work on it, you're going to find that the universe, I believe in all of that the universe is just going to jump on board to help you along with it. And of course, I am doing this journey along with you. I'm going to be using Jillian's book as my guide, and so I will keep you updated from time to time how it's going. If you're watching this on your television, please pick up your phone and like, subscribe, and drop a comment. Tell me what your thoughts are about this third act dating. I would so love to hear and know if this is something that's interesting to a wide variety of women at this stage. And so until then, I hope that this will help you along your journey, and that you will find it interesting. And remember that love is wonderful, but the most wonderful relationship and love relationship you're ever going to have is the one that you have with yourself. When you have that, then you're going to be able to share that with another person. But another person is not going to be able to make you love yourself. So we start with self. This third act of life isn't about shrinking your dreams. It is about expanding your possibilities. And love real love might just be waiting in a place where you least expect it. Until next time,